Greetings, Further Aglow family and friends. Thank you so much, Reverend Marzia, for extending this opportunity for me to be here and share with all of you about how we can tap into the divinity that is found in the darkness of our emotions. Let's start with an exercise, a simple exercise. Imagine you are out and about town and you run into an old acquaintance that you haven't seen in years. So picture it in your mind. Is it a man or a woman? And where are you? A grocery store, your favorite department store, a gas station maybe. The two of you stop and take some time to catch up with one another, shoot the breeze a little, and while you're talking, this acquaintance says to you, "You are so emotional." Okay, pause the visualization. How does that make you feel? What's your initial perception of that? Does it make you feel good, complimented, and lifted up? Or are you feeling slighted and not quite sure if that was an insult? You can respond, if you like, by using the reactions button, or you can just think to yourself how you might feel if they said, "You are so emotional." Okay, now let's go back to the visualization, rewind the scenario to where the person did not say that. That never happened. So again, you're out and about, you're chatting it up with this old acquaintance, and the person says, "You are so intellectual." Now, how do you feel? What's your perception of that? Does that make you feel good, complimented, and lifted up? Or are you feeling slighted and not quite sure if that was an insult? You are so intellectual. So of course, there are varieties of ways one might feel, and everyone is different, but it's not uncommon for people to have quite contrasting internal experiences of those two very similar statements. We'll be looking at different parts of the definition of the words emotion and intellect that Ernest Holmes shares in the Science of Mind textbook. But one thing he says is that in many people, there's a conflict between the emotion and the intellect. There are a couple of ways we can look at that. And the first way I'd like to explore relates to what we value as a society. I submit to you, along with countless psychologists, psychoanalysts, doctors, authors, ministers, and practitioners, that so many of us have been conditioned to have rather dysfunctional relationships with emotions, both our emotions and those of others. It's generally not taken as a compliment to be told, "You are so emotional." But I'm here to tell you, my friends, that you are so emotional. You're also so intellectual, but you are so emotional. Now that might sound heavy and uncomfortable if you've been told or otherwise encouraged to believe that your emotions are somehow too much. Or it might sound not true at all if you've been in the practice of tampering down your emotions, and perhaps even to the point where it's difficult for you to even recognize your emotions. But dear ones, the truth is that you are just as much an emotional being as you are an intellectual being. Even as you are here using the science of mind to connect with your highest self, and though so many of us have or would like to shut our emotions away in a corner, there is divinity to be found in the darkness of our emotions. So let's dive in with the thing itself, shall we? What is emotion? Even though emotion has been somewhat vilified and certainly misunderstood in these modern patriarchal times as the unnecessary drama of women and children, emotion, like everything else, is simply energy. Ernest Holmes says that emotion is mental energy set in motion through feeling. I'm gonna get back to that in a moment, but I'm gonna take a beat to take a look at this bias society has against emotion and in favor of intellect, and mention a bit about what my research uncovered in terms of the reasoning behind that. As I said before, experts agree that very often people are not really taught about how to deal with the experience of emotions. And it seems like the popular opinion about why that is twofold. Number one, emotions either create or are based on this energy that we feel moving in our body. So that when they are lower vibrating emotions, such as sadness or fear, they tend to make us feel very uncomfortable. And since emotion is simply energy that is in motion, we can also feel a similar discomfort when the emotion is not even ours, when it belongs to someone else. Like the way they say you can feel the tension in the room. Sometimes we can even feel discomfort with higher vibrating emotions, such as anticipation or elation. Some explanations for this are that in the case of anticipation, for example, the sensations we feel inside related to that emotion can feel very close to sensations we associate with anxiety. And in the case of elation or happiness, a couple of reasons we might suppress those are because of lower vibrating thoughts we might have associated with them, like, oh, better not be too happy or something bad might happen to knock me off my pedestal. Or we might think that people don't want to see our happiness, that displaying our happiness or joy might make us seem braggadocious or insensitive to the feelings of others. So these are just some possible examples. But again, the first reason people might try to suppress or dismiss emotion is the discomfort we feel. And the second reason is because humans are reasoning beings. And without practice and understanding of what emotions are for, emotions don't seem to be logical. It's not easy for us to figure out what they're about or what their purpose is. They don't make sense. Unless we're talking about mental or spiritual health professionals or otherwise enlightened beings, we most often hear emotion being characterized as illogical and irrational. While the stigma is directed upon people of all genders and ages, society generally tends to carry the idea that it's okay for women and children to express a range of emotions, but that men and even boys should be more stoic in their manner. We've all heard of people admonishing boys by saying, "You're crying like a girl," or that they should man up. The suggestion to suppress the expression of emotions is not limited to men, however. Although women might be expected to be emotional, the connotation of being emotional is still generally a negative one. Be it for men or women, to be dignified, put together, or professional are seen as admirable traits that are expected to be completely devoid of displays of emotion. Whether someone is bawling in despair or bubbling with joy, either person might be readily advised to calm down. Even though we all know that it's quite natural for a human to display a range of emotions, and we know this because babies and young children naturally express their emotions through their feelings through emoting. Even though we know this, by the time a child reaches grade school, many of her emotions have already been suppressed. Regularly suppressing emotions is harmful. Holmes goes on to say that emotion unexpressed produces confusion, conflict, complexes, and conflict. He says that emotion unexpressed produces confusion, conflict, and complexes. For energy will have an outlet. Bottled up, it creates a pressure that is the cause of much damage to the physical man. Other experts agree. In fact, it is well known that suppressing emotion has a physiological impact on the body. And one unexpected outcome of trying to suppress the lower vibrating or negative emotions is that at the same time, it automatically has us have a lower expression of the positive emotions. Much of the time, the physiological impact of suppressing emotions is short term and does not cause lasting problems. But longer term, the continual suppression of emotions can have detrimental physical and psychological effects. If you've ever had a deep tissue massage, you'll know how stress can manifest itself in tightening of your muscles. Suppressed emotions stay in the body. Effects of suppressed emotions include anxiety, some forms of depression, and other stress-related illnesses. These suppressions can lead to alcohol and substance abuse problems. When it comes to food, the abuse of food, you might have heard the maxim, the problem is not what you're eating, the problem is what's eating you. Research shows that bottling up emotions can make people more aggressive and even cause heart disease. As far back as 1970, studies began to show that long-lasting hopelessness was was directly associated with cancer, and anger directly associated with heart disease. Other studies have concluded that emotion suppression may cause risk for earlier death, including death from cancer. Now that all sounds very dark and literally morbid. And I bring this up to say that yes, we do want to deal with our emotions. They are extremely powerful. But let's move to talking about the purpose of these invisible yet palpable powerhouses. In the same definition of emotion we've been reading from, Ernest Holmes goes on to say that emotion is consciousness attendant upon other forms of consciousness as perception or ideation, to which it gives their feeling tone. To break that down, emotion is consciousness or awareness as it responds to other forms of awareness, such as perception or ideas, also known as our thoughts. This response brings along with it the feeling tone that emotion is characterized by. To break it down even more simply, Ernest Holmes, along with countless other writers and teachers in both the field of metaphysics and psychology, share that our emotions are based upon our thoughts. So as usual in the Science of Mind teaching, the agency over our emotions lies with us. We are not unwitting victims. We do have mastery, power, and dominion over our body, life, roles, and affairs, and our emotions. Holmes says, in a well-balanced person, the emotion is controlled by the intellect. So as with any type of manifestation, I am the thinker who thinks the thought that makes the thing. And in this case, I am the thinker who thinks the thought that makes the emotion. How many times have we been in or heard of situations where a group of people experience the same thing, but have different emotions about it? So for example, we could be at a restaurant and the waitress accidentally knocks over a glass of water and the water falls on two of us. Immediately, we both react. One cries out in anger and the other cries out in laughing surprise. An onlooker might experience feeling mortified, thinking, oh my goodness, this waitress must be so embarrassed. The waitress herself, however, has been in this game so long that it has happened a time or two before. So while she's startled, she continues feeling calm as she apologizes for her mistake and begins to rectify the situation. 4 people experiencing the same situational trigger, but perceiving it and therefore feeling it very differently. This is how emotion works. But still, what is the purpose for emotion? Emotions are built-in biological mechanisms whose primary role is to compel us to take action. They were likely originally created to help us survive the harsher conditions of our human past. And today, emotions motivate us to make difficult decisions, lead purposeful lives, and advocate for ourselves and others. Emotions like joy give us a sense of purpose and well-being, while more challenging emotions like disgust help us redirect what is harmful or unhealthy. Metaphysically speaking, emotions are our guideposts to let us know at what level we are operating in relation to our Christ nature at a given time. This mechanism is sometimes called our emotional guidance system. Emotion serves as a built-in system that we possess to let us know when we are on track and when we are off the path or out of alignment with our divine Christhood. Just as we wouldn't want a pilot or driver to ignore the guidance of the road signs or the GPS when navigating us toward our intended destination on the map, we don't want to ignore our emotions as they are guiding us to our intended destination of our greater good. This emotional guidance system can work in conjunction with our intuition to compel us to move toward people, places, situations, and things from which we experience higher vibrating energy, and to move away from those from which we experience lower vibrating energy. So we move toward things that make us feel good and away from things that make us feel poorly. Remember that Ernest Holmes said that in the well-balanced person, emotion is controlled by the intellect. He goes on to write that emotion uncontrolled produces chaos. And in his definition of intellect, he brings us to the resounding conclusion that the key to this whole thing is that when we combine thought with feeling, intellect with emotion, and add to this the recognition of the Christ within, we have a power which is irresistible. And what is that power? It is the power to manifest, demonstrate the experiences and circumstances in life that we desire. What is the process of demonstration? It is aligning our fits, as Reverend Alma and her students affectionately call them. When our fits, our feelings, images, and thoughts are in integrity or in alignment with one another, lined up and in agreement, not only do we experience wholeness and contentment, that is also the space of powerful manifestation. As I close out, let's take a look at some actionable steps that we can take to come further along the process of being a master at aligning our feelings, images, and thoughts while recognizing the Christ within. There are so many things we can do to become more connected and attuned to our emotions, from deep breathing work to journaling to meditation to working with the emotional guidance scale found in Abraham Hicks' best-selling book, Ask and It Is Given. There are countless resources out in the world that will support us in that. But I submit to you that we are already on the right path. We are here with Reverend Marzia at Further Aglow Centers for Spiritual Awareness, where she and this organization are committed to supporting you along your path by bringing programming like this Sunday service and the 1 p.m. classes she runs. As one of my spiritual teachers used to say, get in a class. I must say that that is the best advice I've ever received and consistently followed through on. As you heard earlier, today at 1 o'clock, Further Aglow partners with Reverend Michelle Senegal to bring you content about how to manifest and demonstrate more money. In the upcoming class, after Reverend Michelle's series is finished, Reverend Marzia will be teaching a course called This Thing Called You. It's going to offer you a 10-week deep dive into the topics we've discussed today and many, many more. In the announcements every week, you're invited to purchase both Reverend Michelle's book and Reverend Alma Stevens' book series of powerful, life-affirming prayers that she has explicitly written for the purpose of immediately moving your energy so that your feelings, images, and thoughts will be in alignment with your highest and best good in any area of your life that you can think of. Get the books. And finally, as you heard in my bio, I am a huge proponent of working with an affirmative prayer partner or a practitioner. Or I invite you to get into a manifestation mastermind prayer group. I have been leading and participating in these groups nonstop for over 10 years, and I promise you, the list of amazing experiences our mastermind partners have demonstrated over the years is astounding. Get in a mastermind prayer group. The strength of emotion generated through the power of the spoken word, combined with focused imagination in these mastermind prayer groups, is tremendous. Because as we know, when two or more are gathered, the power to demonstrate is greater. And so it is.
Yeah, and so it is. And so it is. Minister Maya, wow. Beautiful, beautiful. Woo. I'm sitting here listening for more. I got so swept away into it.
I don't know if I was too fast. I think I was talking a little faster, but I timed it, so hopefully.
Yes, you're right on time. You're right on target.
Okay.
And so right now we are going to invite any questions, any suggestions, any
Good morning.
insights. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning,
Patricia. Go ahead.
As Reverend Marzia said, I borrowed the keys and came in early so I could be here when you started.
Yay, thank you. I'm glad you did.
As Reverend Alma says, you are given what you are needed. This week, many of you know I am in a New God unit. I have a family circumstance and situation that is very different from anything that any of you or I know. So we know and recognize that we are life's example of being family. This past weekend, this Friday, one of the young people that I am connected to had an emotional experience. She is not with us today. She is, I mean, she's on the planet. We let me not put it out that far. We did take her for assistance, you know, and so she is, she's hospitalized now. What you said, every word you said from the very beginning is in alignment with helping me to see more clearly what I am involved in. I turned up the music a little loud because the others are here, but because of the way our space is arranged, I know they didn't hear it. I know I would like them to be able to hear that message that you just gave. But I wanted to say to say publicly, I deeply appreciate this. And this is one of those times that, you know, God gives you exactly what you need. And you, I mean, you started talking, you spoke very fast, and I get that. But you got it all out and you got it right where it needed to be. And I deeply appreciate that. Everything you said. Now, that was just my introduction.
Okay.
I do have a question too, just for you to complete out. When you were explaining about emotions, you said it's a built-in mechanism, and I just didn't get the rest of that because I wanted to keep up with what you were saying.
Mm-hmm. So it's basically a built-in mechanism for us to help us navigate through the world. It tells us what to move toward, especially when we're combining with intuition, right? So we'll just say when we are in a healthy, whole place with our emotions, right? We're balanced with our emotions. It is combined with our intuition to let us know what is for us and what is not for us. For example, when you were invited to go and live with this family, change your whole life and move, your intuition and even your feeling was very likely at some point saying yes. You felt maybe some form of we're not using the word excitement, but what elation or anticipation of having a new life experience, having a new opportunities open up for you. I know after last night's experience, you might remember it differently, but in the beginning, I remember you sharing with us and how it was contagious, this feeling of emotion of eager anticipation of this new life experience for yourself. So,
and I just want you to say, they said intellect guides emotion. Well, at the beginning of this, it was the opposite. It was the other way. Emotion was guiding intellect because it did not see any sense in what was happening. But it did not push to be right. So now it's only now I'm thinking about how, Reverend Alma said, illogical that whole, this whole 6 months has been. But
so Ernest Holmes says about that is our point of mastery, because emotion unbridled can just be, I'm sure many of us can have experienced that, can just have us run away with us. I imagine that in general, you are a person who's balanced. You've worked with youngsters all these, decades. So I imagine that you have a sense of balance in your emotions in the first place, so that would not necessarily be experiencing some emotions that are just like completely out of the box, right? Because you've already been working all these years on balancing your emotion, right? So, but overall, right? He's saying that the way for us to harness our emotion that might be unbridled is to master them, to guide them with our intellect. Thanks for your questions and your comments.
Yeah, perfect. So are you complete now, Patricia?
Yeah.
Yes, I get that. Guide your emotion with your intellect. Yes, and Reverend Alma is giving that a thumbs up. So,
good morning.
Good morning. Hey, Reverend Antoinette.
Good morning.
Yeah. Thank you, Myra. You are so appreciated. Fabulous and awesome. Thank you for your magnificent
Thank you so much, Reverend Antoinette. I appreciate that.
There's Carolyn. I see you're in your new abode, Carolyn.
No.
Hey, somebody's abode. But when you said intellect and emotions, when Patricia first said about, the situation that she was anticipating getting in, I likened it to my adoption of my two babies. And you can have all the intellect in the world and they don't come together. Okay, so you can say what you want to say about intellect and emotion. That emotion is so strong that it threw up. So when she reminded me, when she started talking about that, I'm talking about initially, there is no intellect. I mean, really, and someone holding your hand and trying to change your mind and all this kind of stuff. You are in it. You are in it, in it, in it.
That's the
So,
emotional guidance system.
and
Let us
honey,
know which way that we should move toward, right? And I love how you're
yes,
saying it's powerful. Greg Braden talks about this how powerful and also I can't think of his name right now. He writes a lot about Joe Dispenza writes a lot about, they both write about the power, how we focus on this intellect, but this emotion is even more powerful than that. And then when you align your intellect with your emotion, this Greg Braden these days is calling it, and other people call it head and heart resonance, right? Mind and heart resonance. That is like a hugely powerful connection. Absolutely. So, I mean, as in our experiences as raising, because I'm thinking, yes, I mean, well, my intellect would never tell me to actually give birth because of that pain. So giving birth, adopting children, once listen, yes, our emotional guidance system is there to let us know which way to go.
Reverend Alma, or?
Yes, I was just waiting for others
Yes, your mic is
to.
okay. Go ahead.
I sat in awe this morning when I listened to you. I've listened to you over the years. Um, when you first started, when I was giving you opportunities to speak, and you have never come through as powerful as you did this morning, because it is evident that you've been practicing the principles. You've been living the principles. See, we don't only practice, we must live them, become them. Dr. Holmes used the term as embodiment, in putting it in the body. And it was very clearly shown today. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. And thank you, Reverend Marziah, for asking her to just share her heart. Emotion, and intellect, I think, was at the forefront of your message. You see, emotion comes from the soul, and that's why the push is so much stronger than the intellect, because it comes from the soul, and the soul it is the soul's journey now. Before 2020, it was the intellect's journey. Now it is the feeling journey, and your comments on the feeling, images, and thoughts, and I just put them together, fits when they come into alignment. Then that's when the emotion or the energy of the soul can move through and manifest your desire. It was beautifully presented, and I am so very proud of you. And I sat with my usual grin the whole time, even though you didn't see me. was sitting there, I was just so very proud. I think I can say that as you have chosen me as teacher, as your teacher, that the greatest reward that a teacher can feel is to have a student practice the principles, even though I tell you with Maya, she's been my student for about 20 years, close to 20 years now, and we argue. We argued from the day she started 20 years ago, and we are still arguing. We argue every week, and I've come to understand that there is some way, that is one way that we come to our realization by arguing. Dr. Holmes said, argue with yourself. And I just simply sit and let her argue, and then she eventually comes to her own understanding. So when you are in your she suggested that you take classes and that you learn, because you are the ones that you've been looking for. You are the light of the world. All of these all of us who are on this community uh, 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 represents the light, which I have changed the word light to love. All of us represent the love energy of the Creator, and your love or your light shines whenever your fits, your feelings, your images, and thoughts are in alignment with your emotion. That is your feeling in alignment with your soul. Thank you so very much for this most this rich, as I call it, this rich message. Thank you again, and thank you, Patricia, for your learning, your sharing, your of your purpose as a light worker. God bless all of you, and I love all of you, and all of you know it by now.
Yes. You sure do. Thank you. Thank you so much, Reverend Alma. You're
Absolutely. I definitely want to thank you again, Reverend Alma, for all this time that we spent together. I guarantee 1,000 gazillion percent it's because of you that Reverend Marzia invited me here today. I would not know Reverend Marzia if it weren't for you, but it's definitely that it must be her confidence in your confidence in me through that you conveyed through her, and then also our time together. So I just really appreciate. I thank you for the opportunity. And I forgot to say, I was supposed to write that in the talk. Reverend Alma, get in the class. Reverend Alma's class on Monday. Do you have Sunday at 1 and Monday at, I think it's 7 p.m., 7:30 p.m.
30.
7:30 p.m. Get in the class.
Get into a class.
Yes.
I just want to come.
And I must say that the class is a free will offering, so you give if you want to. If not, my heart said to offer it to the world, and if you and those who are ready will come. So it is open, and you can get in touch with the Reverend Mazia, or I think she gave my telephone number in the opening, and she carries my books. And thank you for the advertisement of my books this morning, because that is what brought me to the place where I could love humanity, love everyone. Thank you. Patricia had something to say, Reverend Mazia.
Yeah, I
Yes.
just want to say to Rule Fuller, I don't know. I mean, that background you have has me going round and round. I can see some of it. I know it's the truth. I see truth in it. I just said, I just have to comment on that background. And I don't know where you get it from, but as they say, I want some.
I made it during one of Maya's mastermind classes, so it was
Oh,
creative activities.
Yeah, we gave I think we gave a lesson on that. I don't remember if we gave a lesson on that, but there should be a little tutorial out there about that. So absolutely.
And I must say, okay, so that's one of the projects you did in your mastermind group.
Yeah, actually, it was the 4T prosperity
Okay,
program.
great.